They start scratching at midnight, right under my tent. Not the wind, not a branch. Something with fingernails, frantic and hungry. If you hear that sound when you're alone in the woods, don't unzip. Don't move. Don't breathe. My name's Jessie McElroy. Out here they call me Journey because I walk until the past stops following me. Tonight should have been quiet. Tonight should have been a candle blown out with the wind. Instead, my friends surprised me on the summit, Francesca, Chris, Bobby, and Riley, because it was Flynn's birthday and no one wanted me alone. Flynn used to be my anchor. Flynn used to be the kind of brother who laughed so loud you felt it in your bones. He disappeared 10 years ago on the trail. No body, no answers. Just a hole in the world that my family hasn't learned how to live around. I hike for him. I walk away the way some people drink, or scream, or pray. The campsite looked cozy in the wavering LED glow. A spiderweb of tarp lines, hammocks slung like lazy flags, a cinder of a fire that smelled like coffee and yesterday's jokes. I checked my tent, checked the other tents, checked the dark. The forest inhaled. My flashlight was a small failing sun on a clear night. At first I blamed my brain. The trail shaves off the edges of you. You start hearing the world in the way your grief taught you. The fly sheet rustled, the trees sighed, the classic sounds. But there is a difference between ordinary noises and the sound that made my skin tingle, scratch, a sharp manic rasp like nails on bone coming from right behind me, right where the tent met earth. I told them to leave it, laughed it off, and then heard it again, closer, angrier. My hands fumbled for my flashlight, my voice was swallowed, my heart went grim and hollow. Bobby shrugged, because his sense of danger comes with a punchline. Francesca warned me to sit down, to breathe, to stop making things worse. I told them it was under the tent, it was under the tent. At first, it was a tangle of rope and tensioners, an innocent practical thing, but then a dirty hand shot through the ground sheet and grabbed Bobby's leg like a trap. The scream that followed was an animal sound that punched straight into the marrow. The hand was wrong. Too thin, too long, like someone who had dug through years of earth with nails turned to claws. We dug. If you've never seen a shallow grave work itself out of the dirt, you have not seen how panic presses into muscle. Nails split, palms bled, the smell of loam and something older filled the circle of our light. We tore at the earth until the campsite turned into a hasty graveyard, until we pulled a young woman out covered in mud and small stones and the taste of the dark. She coughed and spat like the world had stolen oxygen from her lungs, and then returned it with a mean note. Her name was Anna, she said when she could, like a man finding his name on a gravestone and reading it aloud to be sure it belonged to him. Anna, 21. Thin as a rail. Eyes that had been taught to thank the sky for the air. She begged us, in short hoarse breaths, not to call the cops. They'll know, she kept repeating. They'll know you found me. That sentence hung in the smoke and flickered like a warning. They. Who were they? Why bury someone alive in a place where no one walks? The dog that led us here, a German shepherd who had been as sudden and wild as a flare, had vanished after Bobby detonated a bear banger. That dog's behavior was the thing you later remember, not random but insistent, guiding us to the one place the earth had been stitched closed. The timeline slid sideways that night. One moment I was curled in my sleeping bag listening to a meditation that imagined sand and gulls and the world as a gentle story. The next I was on my knees in dirt, watching Francesca pour water over a woman who had been pressed into mud like a pressed flower. The night multiplied itself with questions and the staccato of our breaths. Anna's skin tasted like river stones. When she could speak, she told us fragmented things. A camp, a ring of men, a shallow pit, a sound like a sack of rocks being dragged, then cold. She said they came in shifts and told them to keep quiet. They promised food they never delivered. She mouthed words about ropes and a relentless watch and the name of the place. Not a town, not a person, something older, a ritual maybe, or a habit grown from 100 old cruelties. We argued about 911. Francesca wanted to call immediately. Bobby, still trembling, wanted to bury his hands in dirt until they bled clean. Anna begged us not to call. She begged us because calling would announce to someone or something that she'd been found. That shiver of logic made no sense and felt like a bone. She begged us more for a reason we couldn't wrap logic around. Fear of retaliation, fear of the ritual continuing, fear that telling the world would invite the world to one place at once. We listened to Anna and the rational world fought with the immediate one. We were not cops. We were backpackers months from cell service. The forest around us thickened as if it listened through the trees. The scratches started again that night, but this time they were not under my tent. They circled the perimeter of our camp like a scent, soft steps. The thin scrape of nails on dirt, then the pause, then the sound again, as if the thing outside were deciding whether to strike or to observe. We put the fire up like a wall of teeth. We took turns keeping vigil. Anna slept in the center of us like a fragile relic. The morning was a bad light. Anna's story grew into a shape. She said she'd been taken from the trail 2 nights ago, grabbed, blindfolded, dragged across a wet slope where the pine needles clung like hands. She remembered names whispered like numbers, men who spoke quietly like men who keep appointments with evil. She said she kept thinking of Flynn when they slapped her down, and I felt my whole world shift. My breath turned icy because Flynn had disappeared 10 years ago in the same general arc of forest. The coincidences stacked like nails. We decided to hike Anna back to a road. No sheriffs, no cautious waiting. She needed warmth, a hospital, witnesses. We packed with hands that still had the smell of the earth on them and followed the direction that dog's paws had taken us the night before. The trail twisted, the forest closed like a mouth. Once, far from any path, we found a circle of disturbed ground with small tokens, embedded cloth strips, segments of rope, a rusted coin threaded on a nail, not markers for hiking. Markers for keeping something accounted for. The tokens made my skin crawl in the private way only certain knowledge can. Someone said a ledger of small things in this place, and the ledger was still being read. The day wore at us. Anna grew stronger with each step, but she flinched at shadows like someone who had memorized possible threats. She kept saying they watched from up high places and from under the earth. She kept whispering the same plea. Don't call attention. Don't make a map. We ran into evidence, a discarded jacket snagged on a branch like a flag, a trail boot half buried beside a creek. We found a place where someone had tried to force a shovel into earth already turned pale. The forest seemed to be a palimpsest of other people's desperate attempts to write a way out. When we finally reached a ranger station an hour down a road that led to no one's house, Anna flinched and begged us not to wake the people inside. She said their faces would be smooth and unseeing. Francesca pressed her palms together until they went white. Bobby quietly dialed. I watched the phone burn a hole in the screen with a kind of terrible certainty that we were about to hurt something larger than us by doing what felt like the right thing. The ranger took Anna in. He moved with the slow, indelible efficiency of someone who has seen too many things. He asked questions about location, timing, injuries. We gave answers and left details out because Anna asked us to. The ranger's eyes flicked toward the trees in a way that made the back of my neck feel naked. On the radio, he muttered to someone in a language of tone rather than words, and the tone was not friendly. We drove back to camp with a hollow sound around our ribs. The dog was gone in the morning light. The campsite looked like it hadn't been touched. My tent sat with the zipper undisturbed, but in the dirt around it, the ground had been smoothed like an unmade bed. The echo of fingernails on the underside was still there in my memory as a sound forever linked to the wet taste of soil. We left the next morning. Anna declined to stay. She wanted to keep hiking. She wanted to make distance. She wanted to simple her steps to the rhythm of moving away. Before she left, she reached up and pressed a small piece of cloth into my hand, a token, one of those things you find embedded in the ground. She said, For Flynn, like this was a rite for those of us who lost someone and wanted to wake them back into the world with a small, human insistence. I keep it in my pack like a prayer that isn't certain.